Hi, this is Andrea Bilello, president of Camp Exsighting Adventures.
Hi, this is Becca Weber, board member of Camp Exsighting Adventures.
You're listening to
White Canes Connect.
Hey there, PA Federationists. Welcome to another episode of White Canes Connect, presented by the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. My name is David Goldstein. I am the treasurer of the Keystone chapter. I am solo today. Lisa is on assignment doing a whole lot of writing. I will only be by myself for another minute or so, and we're going to talk to Andrea Bilello and Becca Weber from Camp Exsighting Adventures. And you might recognize Becca's name. She is a member of the Keystone chapter right here in Pennsylvania, and she is going to be assisting with this camp up in New Hampshire. So let's hear from Andrea and Becca. Andrea and Becca, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Andrea, let's start with you. You want to give us a little bit of your background, your blindness journey, if you will?
Sure. So I am a teacher of students with visual impairment, as well as a certified assistive technology instructional specialist. I've been teaching for about 20 years. I've been teaching students that are blind and visually impaired for about 10. And I have known Becca for about 3 years. We met each other during COVID, doing some technology stuff.
And where are you located?
I live in New Hampshire.
Becca, how about you?
I am currently the assistive technology teacher at Overbrook School for the Blind. I've been teaching there for almost 2 years. I work with students between the ages of 3 and 21 and teach them about computers, iPhones, iPads, braille displays, magnification, things of that nature. Andrea and I met, like she mentioned, in COVID times, and we met over our mutual interest in technology, and she needed some help with tech stuff.
Why don't we talk about the camp? Andrea, this is the first year of the camp, is that correct?
Yes. So Camp Exsighting Adventures started as an idea at the end of November. I have a former student named Emma Miller, and she is a sophomore at Keene State College. And she previously went to a camp in New Hampshire called Camp Interactions, and that camp closed during COVID. So we were really looking at a way to sort of bring back a camp opportunity for students that were blind and visually impaired in New Hampshire and the greater New England area. So we kind of decided to start a nonprofit and have a camp again, but a different camp.
Why don't you talk us through, I just did a website for someone who started a nonprofit. What's the process like to get going with one of those?
Well, you could be crazy like me and do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I did it wrong. And I went on our state website and I tried to fill out the paperwork myself, and we got rejected like within 24 hours because I'm not a lawyer. So I basically paid a nonprofit. It was called Instant Nonprofit to do the paperwork for us. And you have to, each state has different rules, but we had to get articles of these special articles approved through the state as a nonprofit. And then once you get your state like approval, then you can submit that paperwork to the IRS. And it includes things such as like having a board, being able to talk about what your mission is, having sort of like if you were to dismantle where any finances would go and things along those lines. So I basically paid somebody $1,000 because I had no idea what I was doing, but it worked.
I think sometimes in the end, it's best to do it that way because there are other things that you could be concentrating on that would be more beneficial than doing something that you don't really know too much about, and they know how to the ins and outs of doing it. So I think that was probably a good call to pay to have it done, and at least it's done and you're on your way. Becca, so when Andrea talked about this camp, what got you involved in it?
So I know from my previous camp experiences I have done over the years that I just like meeting other blind and visually impaired people and kind of exploring different opportunities. So they could be fun opportunities or they could be more of educational opportunities. I attended the Helen Diller Home in New Jersey for about 4 years or so. And that was a one week residential camp for students. And we went down to Avalon, New Jersey. So we participated in activities like going to the beach, going to Wildwood, going to, they had like a dance party at Sea Isle, and just really fun experiences like that. And then I attended a summer program at Penn State called Summer Academy. And this is kind of where I found my confidence, I guess, and just learned more about technology, O&M skills, independent living, and just like building that self-confidence in myself. And when she approached me with the idea, I was like, yes, this sounds like a great idea. And I think being a blind adult, I have that experience where I can share my knowledge with students and my expertise in certain areas as I have lived experience.
So let's talk more about the camp. The camp, it's got two components. It's got a day and a sleepaway type of situation, or is it, how's it laid out like that?
So we originally were going to do it as a day camp, but that would really limit the number of students that would be able to come, for parents being able to transport them as well as just the smaller geographic area. So we went the route of a residential camp, and we're basically renting a part of a camp. So we're not the only people there. It's called Lantern Light Camps, and it's a former Boy Scout camp. It's 300 acres, and it's a 1 week residential camp for up to 20 youth between the ages of 6 through 17 years of age. And we have sort of like two age ranges. There's campers. So that could be any age range that are really just participating in fun activities, developing confidence, independence skills, self-determination, and social skills, and just having blind mentors and visually impaired mentors. And then we have counselors in training, which is something new where youth between 14 through 17 years of age are being supported through nonprofit or the state through vocational rehab to receive a paid work experience. And the 14 through 17-year-olds are assisting with activities with the younger campers part of the day. And then they're doing all the fun things the rest of the day. So it's Monday through Friday for sleepaway. And then we're doing a 1-day camp for students with visual impairment and additional disabilities, or if a family feels though, their child isn't ready to go to a sleepaway camp, that they could just come and kind of get like a tour. So the family camp day is an invitation for families of our present campers that are staying overnight to explore camp, see what their kids are doing, and do something with their child, meet the volunteers and staff that are all blind and visually impaired, as well as participate in some recreational activities, and then allow opportunities for kids where we can't provide one-on-one support all day and all night, a camp experience. So the CITs will be responsible for doing a tour on family camp day. Everybody will have lunch together, and then families and their children can participate in 2 to 3 different activities.
And the families, when they come, do they stay there at the camp?
Yeah, they're gonna be staying there for the day. It's like Friday would be like 8 a.m. till 5 o'clock at night. So they would get like a tour, and then we haven't decided exactly the set schedule, but pretty much again, it's a big camp. So what we might do is do a tour, stop, and then give families a choice. Would you like to participate in swimming and boating activities? If you do, you can stay here. If not, we'll continue on with the tour. And things that they can participate in are swimming, boating, such as kayaking, canoeing. There's a 20-something person whale boat will take them around Northwood Lake. They can do arts and crafts, all visual, non-visual, based on, the child's sort of sensory learning priorities. And then we'll be doing some adaptive sports.
And so basically these families are basically just coming at the beginning of the last day to,
Right.
they would pick up their kids at the end of that day normally.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I would just assume as a teacher, right? If you have parents stay the first day or come in the middle, we'll have a lot of homesick kids that are going to want to go home.
Right.
So,
Right.
Worst case scenario, if the kids are like, peace out, I want to go. Sure. That sounds good. At least the ones that aren't getting paid, and then the ones that are getting paid have to follow through on the expectations. But we just thought it was a really nice way to provide opportunities. We've had a lot of interest from families in New England with kids with significant disabilities and visual impairment reach out. And unfortunately, we're not able to cater to that. That's something we're going to consider maybe in the future, and maybe do it as a weekend long sort of camp, just because staffing is really hard to do, 24/7 for kids that have significant like medical mobility needs. But it's something we're definitely looking at. So we can really accommodate kids that are somewhat independent with travel. If they have like a wheelchair, that it's not fully physically accessible, but everything is going to be accessible from like a non-visual standpoint for all of our activities. So I'll give you an example. We have several students with like cortical visual impairment and learning disabilities coming to camp, or kids that have combined vision and hearing loss. And maybe some physical challenges, but they're still independent travelers. And if they have like behavioral or medical needs or things along those lines, their family is there to sort of like be their support. We have volunteers and staff that can assist campers for parts of activities, but just from a liability standpoint, we can't provide like one-on-one nursing and things like that.
And now will some be bringing... in the future, do you see it where maybe the kids will be coming with an aid or something like that?
Yeah. So I do know certain kids based on, what types of supports they're getting from their state or organizations do have the ability to have an aid with them that is already paid for. So that's not a cost we have to incur. But still, it just our first year, it's sort of something that we're not able to cover at this time. But I do think in the future, we want to see how year one goes, and definitely look at, let's see how family camp day goes. Do we have a lot of interest? If people are interested, maybe we might do a couple of just day activities for kids with visual impairment and additional disabilities, like one in the fall, one in the spring. And then if there is enough interest, try to make sure that we have the staffing and we do like a weekend for kids with additional disabilities where families could stay, and all abilities. Again, we wouldn't be able to provide one-on-one nursing staff, but we would have more than one nurse at the facility, and it would be indoor electric. This camp is definitely, cabins, no electricity, out in the woods. So it's more of a traditional camp experience versus an accessible one, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But we're definitely accommodating all the students that have registered.
And how are the kids going to charge their devices?
So there is going to be, well, that's the difference between our camp and previous camps. We are going to be doing some technology stuff.
Okay.
There will be a power strip by the bathroom, but not in the sink, where kids can charge their phones.
Okay.
Or there's one or two buildings that do have power and they have Wi-Fi. So we'll be able to have sort of like a couple of power strips out and kids can charge their phones there. We will be doing one day where I'm hoping I sort of volunteered Becca to do it, doing accessible coding and sort of gaming or assistive technology, not instruction, but like fun activities.
Okay.
And we have several campers that are very interested in doing coding. So there will be like a morning and an afternoon opportunity to do that. And one of our board members is an accessibility engineer, and he's blind himself, and he will be working with Becca to come up with some activities that meet students' needs and of interest.
I think about everybody's always worried about kids having too much screen time. And when I ask that question, it's different for a person, whether it's a kid or an adult, when you say, "Oh, we've got to limit your screen time." For me, for example, if you tell me I can't use my phone, I can't read anything. I don't.
Right.
I have no idea. I can't use the magnification on it, and so forth and so on. So it's a different thing when you have a visual disability to use the phone. And listen, I know those kids aren't going to use it for those things. They're going to either go online or text their friends or go on social media. But still important to have if they need to use those other things during their stay. Becca, why don't you talk about some of the other activities? Andrea talked about some of the mostly water activities. What else is happening there at the camp?
So some other activities include I know she mentioned some adaptive sports like beat baseball, kickball, goalball, yoga, and other fitness activities. We're also going to do a large print and braille storybook, arts and crafts, other literacy games and activities. And she also mentioned some technology things, cooking and baking, and then team building activities. So Tyler Marin is going to be with us with his wife. He's a Paralympian, and he's going to be leading some team building activities.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah. And woodworking activities and accessible games and coding. There's also music and theater games as well. So there's like a whole studio.
Okay.
And then there's like science and other discovery activities.
You mentioned cooking, and I was talking to a friend today, and he had mentioned on his podcast that he doesn't cook. And I thought, what a great thing to have, especially for young kids, if you're teaching them how to do things in the kitchen. So at least they could prepare. Look, anybody can get the box of cereal out and pour cereal and milk into a bowl, but to have some sort of skill to make a meal, it'll just help them out, and they won't be obviously it'll be more inexpensive for them in the long run. They won't be ordering DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever every meal of every day. That's a great thing. That's nice that starting them with that. Andrea, how did you come up with the idea for the different activities? Did somebody come to you and say, "Hey, you know what? Maybe you should add this, or we should do that"? What was the inspiration on some of the things? Did you see some kids not knowing how to cook, or did you see kids that like to do art? How did that all work out?
I think it's really about two things. One, the volunteers that we have and the board members that are volunteering their time to run the activities, as well as the facility in which we're at. So we're very fortunate that we have a lot of volunteers that are blind and visually impaired mentors from all over the country. Becca's from Pennsylvania. We have Jackie Stalling, who is a vocational rehab counselor in Idaho, who also has been creating camps for the past 15 years and runs Bell and Beyond in Idaho, coming out. So she was the one that really advised us, like, find a place where they already are self-sufficient and you don't have to have a lot of overhead. So the facility where we're at has a lot of these activities. So they have a climbing wall. They already have all the boating equipment. They have 2 waterfronts. They have a recording studio where they have Macs so that we can make accessible with percussion instruments, string instruments, a piano. They have hands-on discovery in science. Like, I typically wouldn't have thought of something like that. They have a full-blown woodworking studio. We don't have to buy any of that equipment or materials. They have they call it creative expression, which covers like woodworking, the music, and the arts and crafts. And it's really tons of different hands-on things, from leather work to stamping to you name it, they have it. And one of our board members is an avid, creator, and she does wire work and pottery. So those are all the things we're offering because that's what the camp has for facilities. So one of the areas they have is called Frontier, and that includes like fort and ferry house building, learning how to do sort of some like wilderness skills, as well as building campfires, kicking over an open fire, using Dutch ovens and a camping cook stove. So we're just trying to really best utilize what the facility has. And it provides a really nice opportunity for kids to try out a bunch of different things. And we'll kind of see how it goes. So the plan is to kind of have theme days. Our first day, Monday, will be sort of our creative expression day, where kids will have choices between arts and crafts, woodworking, music and theater games and activities. And then the next day is going to be mostly literacy games and activities, accessible games and coding. Wednesday is our sort of outdoor rec day, where we'll have climbing, archery, hiking, geocaching. And we're never going to have just one kid by themselves. So we won't have everything, but we'll probably have 3 groups or 4 groups of at least 3 to 4 kids in a group based on interest. And then our 4th day is Thursday, will be our adaptive sports day, where we're renting a gymnasium for half the day. So Tyler can lead goal ball and some more indoor sort of adaptive sports and activities. And then we'll do beat baseball for the other half of the day. And the 2 consistent things throughout camp are waterfront will always be an option, either swimming or boating for a part of the day, every single day, as well as arts and crafts. It might not be the same arts and crafts every day, but there might be pottery for 2 days, woodworking for 2 days, wire work or yarn. So it really gives a lot of campers have never been to camp before. And a lot of them, of course, are former students of mine or present students of mine or board members who have students. We have orientation and mobility specialists that are on the board that are parents of students with visual impairment. So a lot of it's through word of mouth and what kids were interested in. The computer stuff came from student interest.
Okay. And I'm guessing some of that is, pardon the pun, a little bit fluid, because you have to, some of it may be weather dependent. For example, the outdoor day, if it's going to rain that day, maybe you flip-flop that somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
Something like that. Now, you talked about the location. Give us a general idea of where. So it's in New Hampshire, far from Boston. Where are you looking to? Where are you looking to draw from? With only, you said 20, right? 20 campers you're looking for. So how big of an area you're looking to draw from, and whereabouts?
Yep. So we originally were only open to students living in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and southern Maine. And we got quite a bit of interest from other New England states, mostly from Connecticut. So we did open it up to Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. Presently, right now, we have 15 campers and CITs registered, and that's for the residential camp. And they range in age from 9 through 17. And all of them are from New Hampshire and Massachusetts at this time. We foresee it just makes sense to open up to all of New England next year.
Okay.
But yeah, we're really happy to have anybody in, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. And we have to kind of be mindful of where funding is coming from. So a lot of the generous donations are coming from Lions clubs in New Hampshire. So we're only able to utilize that money for students that live in specific towns. But we're happy to, and I feel like our board and myself have been working really hard to support all campers, provide partial scholarships, full scholarships, or connect them with nonprofits. And we pretty much do everything for them except get permission to share their name to get them full scholarships. We've gotten 4 students full scholarships through the Lions clubs in their geographic area, and we've provided at least 4 partial scholarships for campers.
Okay, and what are the costs for the camp? Again, assuming that they've got to pay some or even a little bit. What kind of fees are there?
Yep, it's $1,000 for the residential camp, and that includes staying overnight for the 4 nights, 5 days, all the facilities. It includes breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's a full-blown kitchen there where they'll cater to all food preferences and needs. And then if you're a CIT, it's $1,500, and that's mostly just because we're providing a $350 work stipend for the CITs. And the state of Massachusetts and the state of New Hampshire vocational rehab are fully covering any of their own clients to be counselors in training. So for example, New Hampshire will be, paying for their tuition, and 350 of that goes directly towards the CITs to get their first paid work experience or a paid work experience.
I'm sorry, you were talking about the kitchen and all the things that you could prepare, and I'm thinking, well, they're kids. It's going to be chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, pasta, pizza, maybe burgers or fake burgers and hot dogs. What else do kids? You might have one or two that have crazy palates, but
Oh, we have a vegetarian.
Okay,
we have
there you
somebody.
go.
I don't think we've had too many. Yeah, but I mean, just if there is somebody that has food allergies or things like that, we're able to cater to that, which I think is great. And they do have a full-time nurse. Tuition is $1,000 for all campers and $1,500 for a CIT. We have family camp day, and that's $36 per person. But we're able to fully scholarship most families of four to attend, as long as they let us know. We want to be mindful that we don't want to be a camp that goes under because we don't have funding, but we want to provide funding for families in need, or that have never had a camp opportunity and do need some form of assistance. So most families are paying nothing or very little, but that's based on need. If we do have several families that are self-paying because they're able to and they want to.
Okay. In the event, let's say you're coming up to maybe a few weeks to a month away, and you see, well, we only have 17 right now. You said you have 15. You only have 17. Would you ever consider, if somebody was going to self-fund, would you consider taking someone from outside of New England?
Yes, within reason. We're not able to pick anybody up at the airport or anything like that. So if a parent is able to potentially travel with their child and self-pay, that is something we're definitely doing on a case-by-case basis. We have I can sort of give a scenario that a parent lives and is a resident of Massachusetts, but their child doesn't live in Massachusetts, but they're attending camp. But because they live in Massachusetts and are self-paying, they are attending. But that's sort of like we're taking it and the board is voting because it's not, anybody's camp per se. It's a nonprofit. So we all have to, majority vote. And we usually always do make an exception within reason.
Okay. And Becca, what are you hoping to get out of, obviously you're going to be there the whole week as well. What are you hoping to get out of camp?
I think just to provide a fun experience for the students and to show them the things that are possible for them, all the things that they can accomplish, and provide friendships for them and just help them participate in new activities that maybe they haven't had the chance to participate in before.
I'm wondering if some of the kids, maybe not all of them, some of them, now you teach at Overbrook, which obviously is full of blind kids, but I'm wondering if some of the kids who are blind or maybe even just visually impaired, if they have gone a good part of their life without meeting another blind or seriously visually impaired kid to become friends with. Maybe in their school, they're the only blind kid in the school, so they're on their own. And I'm guessing those kids won't have had any kind of friendships with, and people not understanding what it's like to be in their shoes.
Yes, definitely. I've noticed that through the years in attending camp, where maybe the students are the only blind or visually impaired student in their school, and they get to camp and they meet someone like them and they have that shared experience. And they can also just discuss things that are interesting to them, like their favorite artist or their favorite, team, book, whatever, and kind of having that shared experience makes it really just, I think, interesting.
We had Sam Seavey on from The Blind Life, and he is a big proponent of schools for the blind. And I think this is along those lines, obviously more fun than school, I would hope, but still teaching the same thing. It's how to be independent, how to be mobile, how to learn that, hey, okay, maybe I can't see, but at least I'm having fun doing this. And I'm meeting, like you say, meeting new people. And and they have friends that year in and year out, they can, especially with today's technology, they can still talk back and forth like they're right next door.
Yes, definitely.
A lot of our staff and volunteers are friends from previous camps. So our board is made completely up of individuals that are blind and visually impaired, except myself, my husband, and a parent of a student who's blind. And all of the volunteers and paid staff, only paid staff, are blind and visually impaired. And we're doing that so the campers really have mentors and role models. And then the volunteers that might be sighted are like O&Ms and TVIs. And it's not to lead the activities, but more to give the role models a break because you can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we have lots of O&Ms that are going to be there. That we have like 8 that are volunteering their time. And we're going to be assisting. All activities will be led and assisted by blind and visually impaired, mentors and volunteers. So it's definitely about opportunities to develop confidence, independence, self-determination, time management for some kids, social skills. And the one thing that I think really sets us apart from some of the other camps are that we really want to promote that all the people that are being paid, not saying we wouldn't pay somebody that's sighted, but are only blind and visually impaired. And everybody else is really volunteering their time. We're a 99% volunteer run organization. And we truly believe it's for the students and the campers. That's what we're there for, and how to make this a great opportunity, because all of the counselors have been to camps themselves. And that's why they wanted to work here, because they wanted to be role models for other, youth.
Did you know these folks through your professional career, or how did you find them? You had mentioned some of them knew each other from other camps and things like that. How did you know of these people, or same thing with the camps?
Sure. So one of the board members, Drew Crook, was the original camper of Camp Interactions, which was the camp that was in New Hampshire for 20 years that were for students that were blind and visually impaired. And then he worked his all the way up to being a counselor there. And then he knows people, as well as my former student is a board member. She's a secretary. And really, this is sort of like her baby as well. She would like to take over the nonprofit when she's done with school and law school and all of those things. So some of her friends are former camp friends. And basically, if they were impressive in the sense of just like anybody would, they sent us a resume. They went through an interview process with 2 board members. And we offered people jobs that we thought would be a good fit in the sense of good role models, responsible, safety of the students comes first. And everybody has to pass a background check, just like anybody would in today's day and society if you're going to be working with kids in a school setting, camp setting. So that's another one of our criteria. So primarily it is through word of mouth, but we have advertised all of the organizations for the blind and visually impaired in New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts. I tried to reach out to Connecticut. We shared our website, our flyers, our description of counselor positions, and they filled up quick. We only have 1 more position left for counselor, and we have 3 applicants, and we're interviewing 1 person this week and potentially another person in the next week.
I'm assuming you're doing it online, the interviews?
Yeah, we've just been doing them by a phone.
Okay.
It's like a conference, like a conference call. We ask what their preference is. Would they like to do a video conference, or would they like to just do it by phone? And they're like, phone's fine with us. And we're said, sure.
Okay. And moving forward, as you had talked briefly about it earlier, but are you hoping that if you look forward 5 to 10 years down the line, are you hoping multiple weeks? What are your thoughts there?
Well, my full-time job is, and most of us, we all have full-time jobs or teachers or in another profession. I hope that the board will be fully self-sufficient, without, myself involved. I'm happy to be involved as a volunteer as long as necessary, but I would like to give the organization over to whoever, feels they are able to lead it in the future. And if they're able to financially sustain to do more than 1 week, that I think would be great. The other camp started off as a 1 week camp with 9 campers, and they grew to be 2 to 3 weeks with like 20 something campers from across the country and internationally. So we're working really hard right now for funding. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
Lions clubs, Rotary clubs, fundraisers, family, friends. So I think it's what we have availability and everybody's time and finance to do. But ideally, I think a 1 week, maybe 2. I think the best would be a 1 week camp for, kids that are blind and visually impaired. And then maybe it would be wonderful if we had the staffing to do another weekend or week camp for kids with additional disabilities. Because we'd have to have 2 different locations that are fully accessible. And the Lions are fantastic in New Hampshire. They do have an fully accessible, physically accessible camp that we could potentially do in the future. So we're just trying Lantern Light camps this year and see where it goes. And hopefully we'll be around for many more.
That is really neat stuff that you're doing with for these kids. And hopefully they'll get as much out of it as you guys have put into it up till now. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about?
One thing we didn't mention, so for the counselors in training, we're going to be having sort of like a mentor night where we have invited, and it's really open, I don't want to say to everybody, but who's willing to volunteer their time, and we'll cover, food for them to come and be a part of a panel discussion, and it's going to be fun. So they'll come join all of the campers and the volunteers and staff for dinner on Wednesday, August 2nd. And then it's going to be, all the 14 through 17-year-olds. And then if there are other campers that would like to join, they can ask all of the people that have been in college and that have careers, questions about what it's like, growing up or getting ready for college, going to college in the career or, job world. We have, athletes that are skiers and triathlon people, Paralympians. So just it's providing sort of like a little bit of that college readiness, career exploration as an evening, and we'll throw in some fun things too. So if you're, on the panel, you might get a pie or water or something, but we got to keep the kids interested, right? So we will, full disclosure, first, but we've invited anyone from, New England or outside New England. If they're willing to come, we'd love to have you, just so we have, more mentors for our youth to see, how successful and independent individuals can be.
You mentioned something there, which I don't think we talked about earlier. What are the dates of the camp?
Sure. It's July 31st through August 4th.
Okay. That's when you said August 2nd. I thought, wait, we didn't talk about any dates yet. So that's good. So the 31st to the 4th. And how would somebody apply?
So on our website, there is just like a tab that would go to registration. And there's 2 registrations. One's for the week-long camp, and the other one says Family Camp Day. So the Family Camp Day is just for Friday, August 4th. And
I will put the links in the show notes so you can just click on over there if you want to apply. Andrea and Becca, really appreciate you coming on today. Thanks so much.
Thank you
very much.
Thanks again to Andrea and Becca for coming on and sharing all the information about Camp Exsighting Adventures there in New Hampshire. Go to the website. The link will be in the show notes so you can check it out. If you're interested, shoot them an email or apply, whatever you need to do. Now, they did mention to me after we finished recording that there will even be some guide dogs there. And I've got to tell you, I would love to see Ziggy in some sort of water, whether it's a pool or a lake. And again, he's not a guide dog. He's just a dog. He's a dog of leisure. If you have some ideas for an upcoming episode, we'd love to hear them. Please reach out via email, whitecanesconnect@gmail.com. That's whitecanesconnect@gmail.com. You can also call and leave us a voicemail. You have up to 3 minutes. Call 267-338-4495. Please leave your name and town, or a nickname and your town if you do leave a voicemail, and we will use it on an upcoming episode. So please reach out again, 267-338-4495. One more thing to mention before we go is the Parents Division is doing a candy sale fundraiser. The link will be in the show notes, so please support the Parents Division. They earn 25% commission on whatever they sell. And again, the link is there now. In some browsers, when you click the link, the code does not immediately come up, so you may be asked to enter a code. That is 10-0316 if you have to enter it. If you see National Federation of the Blind Parents, you are good to go, and they will get credit for that sale. But remember that code number. It'll also be in the show notes in case it doesn't pop up. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of White Canes Connect. Take care.